We went through the flow charts, the sitting meditation. Now we would just mention a bit about the flow chart on the walking meditation. The basic principle is the same as in the sitting meditation. First you arouse mindfulness, then you follow your object. In this case they are the footsteps. Then you observe the sensations that constitute each step. The objects are basically the same thing because ultimately they are the processes, material processes of the elements. That's why, in the first sitting meditation, when you sit and you sweep the awareness to the body, you watch all the bodily sensations. And this is the base of the Kayanupassana, the body foundation mindfulness, the body sensations, and which are the processes, material processes and the elements. And so in the walking meditation, in each step, eventually you'll be watching this same thing with each step and with each part of the step. Because in the beginning you don't see that. In the beginning you have the idea of the right foot, left foot, and you bring your awareness and mindfulness to that. When your mindfulness is built up and you walk slower, then you can see that each step is made up of all these sensations. However, in compared to sitting meditation, walking meditation, there are differences in the sense that firstly, the walking meditation is more open. I mean, your eyes are open, although you're not supposed to look at anything particular, but downcast, still you see something. For example, you're watching mindfully right step, left step, right step, left step. Concentration and awareness is on the footsteps, but you still see things around you. Of course, unless you close your eyes. Sometimes people do that when they're walking very, very slowly, in which case they don't walk very far. They probably walk maybe about 10 steps. So being more open, then there are more secondary objects. In the sitting meditation, for example, when you're watching rising and falling, you tend to follow what I call the digital method. That means you follow only that precise process. But in the walking meditation, it's more open. So while you're following the process of each step, you also know what's going on with the secondary objects. For example, you're walking right step, left step, you still know sometimes the sound comes and passes. You still know certain colors come and passes. But you still go on. So it is more like the cloud method. Of course, if the second object becomes strong, then you stop. You're walking, and then somebody decides to walk in front of you. Then you're not seeing. And you probably decide to walk in another place, noting, intending. Then you walk to another place. If you get angry, it's angry. It's like occurs, especially in places where it is crowded. There's a lot of ants around here. Yeah, crawling all over me. So you see, there's a right, left, and then the secondary objects, and you come in. And so when you start, at first you walk a bit faster, and so the observation is more general. Then you start slowing down. So when you start slowing down, you notice that the foot, every step comes in phases. And if you go even slower, you've noticed that there are more phases involved. This is the nature of slowing down. But the slowing down can be also done in a slightly more intentional way, in the sense of dividing the step into different phases. This is, for example, given here as 2 phases or 3 phases or even more phases. And each phase has a particular set of, has a process, and each phase is a set of sensations with particular nature. For example, the lifting tends to be increase of tension, and the putting down is a movement that comes with release of tension. And when you step on the floor, the touching sensations become more obvious. So in a way, you can say that when you slow down naturally, these phases can be observed, but you can also make it intentionally, and after a while it becomes normal. Why do you do this intentionally? I think it's because people are not used to walking so slow. So even you do it intentionally by watching more faces, you try to do it as naturally as possible. That means you don't do it like a clockwork mouse, lifting, pushing, stepping. That's why some people say Vipassana practitioners are robotic. In the beginning, the learning phase, to some extent, it cannot be helped. After a while, it becomes habitual and becomes normal, and it also becomes smoother. Eventually, when you walk very slowly and you don't try to divide all the steps, you can see all the divisions in the changes in the process itself. At that point, it is not so different from the sitting meditation. But walking meditation has many other functions. The first one is, of course, the helping to calm the mind down. It acts like a preliminary calming for the sitting meditation. Secondly, it helps in the balancing of faculties. For example, one is able to arouse more active or energetic mindfulness in the sitting, in the walking. Thirdly, it's also a bridge to bring this vipassana mindfulness and concentration from sitting meditation to daily activities. And lastly, the walking meditation can be vipassana itself. All the levels of insights up to the realization can occur with the walking meditation as you can find it described in the text. So walking meditation is a very important part of the practice. The Buddha does it himself to show it to others. So it should be given equal importance with the sitting meditation, because the practice should be taken holistic, not an emphasis on only one situation to be effective. The question is therefore, how does one go deeper in the walking meditation? This comes about with the understanding of concentration, the development of concentration in walking meditation. Okay, we stop this one here. The other part is, of course, we don't have the flow chart here. Here is all the other daily activities like eating, drinking, and so on. One still have to maintain the continuity of mindfulness. Today we go further into talking about the second foundation of mindfulness. Second foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of feelings. Two types, broadly there are two types: bodily feelings and mental feelings. Physical feelings are feelings of the body, at the body door, whereby it have to go through the body base. Physical pain is the obvious example. Mental pain are those that come about purely at the mental level. Suppose you think of something emotional. What is emotional? Amore. So what happens when a person falls in love? Luka, there's something else. To get strong feelings. It has nothing to do with the contact with the physical feeling. It does not have to be in contact, although the contact does arise. If you contact, you just think, and then all your emotions will come. If you have this physical contact, that's another story. For example, it's not nice to make fun of other people's cultures, but this we have in Malaysia. For example, they usually talk of the Indian love affair. You know how the Indian love affair looks like. Chase each other around the coconut tree. So run, I touch you, and she gets very excited. Then go around and touch you, and she gets very excited. You see, when you touch, there's a physical contact, there's a physical feeling. Then after that, a lot of thinking arises. Then it goes into the mental feeling. These two are different, but they're distinctly different, but they are both still feelings. Only one arises through the body. So usually the physical process arises first, then followed by the mind-door process. Now the bodily feelings comes in two forms. They call it happy and painful. In the mental feeling, it comes in three types: pleasurable, displeasurable, and neutral, indifferent. But in either case, they arise because of contact. The more the contact, the more the feelings. But it also depends on the nature of the object. A more attractive object gives rise to more pleasurable feeling. A more repulsive object gives rise to more painful feelings. There are other factors involved. We go into that. we won't go into that. But what important here is the condition. We look at the conditioning in an impersonal manner. That's one important point about mindfulness of feelings, to look at it in an impersonal manner. Because once you identify with it, locks. So as in these 40 foundations, you also watch feelings as they arise and pass away. You're mindful, you follow watch the feeling, how it comes and goes, and then you observe deep into the nature of feelings. If you watch deep enough, then you're able to experience the three universal characteristics and insight. Although it gets difficult because of bad habits. When the feelings become very nice, I like it, I want it, and it may happen again and again. When the feeling is displeasurable or painful, I don't want it, I don't like it. And so aversion comes together with it. When there's neutral feeling, subtle, and it's a bit of numb kind of feeling. So you don't see it. So it comes with a latent tendency of delusion. Example is when you watch the same thing again and again, and it's no longer interesting. So you get bored. The next step is you fall asleep. But when it's neutral and you don't notice it, it doesn't mean it doesn't do anything to you. It still does things to you. So first we have, for a more meaningful and more stable kind of happy life, we need to be mindful of these feelings. Otherwise we'll be thrown to the right and to the left. Feelings are like waves and ripples on the ocean. So if you are not mindful, you get swept away and you'll be drowned. When you're mindful, you know the waves are around, but you must still be in control so that you can navigate. In a way, feelings are like close to the element of water. The earth element is close. The body foundation is close to the element of earth. So when you talk of water power, it has similarities with the feeling power. It can destroy you or it can save you. So one philosopher says that what is important is not the doing away of feelings, but the mastery over them. Which is true, because feelings will be there as long as the consciousness is present. Of course, eventually you have to go beyond feelings, because Nibbana is described as avedita sukha, a happiness that is beyond feelings, which is not a feeling. All feelings can be described as dukkha, suffering. This dukkha is not just the pain of the body and mind, but of the nature of formations that arise and pass away. So when you meditate also, because the mind is there, the body is there, all these feelings will arise. And the most obvious one for the beginning is pain. So the first thing that you deal with in feelings is painful feeling. The Chinese says, the moment you open the door, you can see the mountain. So the moment you meditate, something big happens, that would be the pain. This is especially true to Vipassana, because as one of the teachers says, I remind you again, pain is the door to Nibbana. But you don't have to be a hero. You do what is capable of, each of us is capable of. Some people take medicine all in one bulk. Some people take medicine in little bits and pieces. This is called the bitter medicine. The Chinese say bitter medicine is good. The more bitter, the better. We're fortunate to have the D method that goes through understanding of pain, and then from understanding of pain, if you can know how to deal with pain, then the next one will be pleasure. And when you can deal with pleasure, the neutral feeling, you see them. The idea is to see them impersonally and to see them arising and passing away. At first the feelings are mainly worldly feelings. Then when you start meditating, it becomes spiritual feelings. Whatever, you keep on meditating, watching it arise and pass away until you find at the end of the road. Usually, it's the four foundations of mindfulness, we work together, starting with the body, then after that the feelings start coming into play, and then after that more the consciousness, and finally the dhammas. But we do remain in one of them for a longer period of time. For example, when pain becomes dominant, we watch feelings as a feeling foundation of mindfulness until the pain passes away. Although there are people who claim to make feeling foundations or consciousness foundations as the main primary object. Yes? Although there are who say that they use feelings as the main object. I cannot understand why, and I cannot understand if they say they don't make use of other foundations. Unless in a short time you watch the feeling and then zoom, get realization. But in life you go through all objects. You cannot be just watching feelings alone. When somebody comes and talks to you, hello, I don't see you, I only see painful feelings. And so this is a very general flow chart whereby this comes from, again, this is not my creation. Put it on a piece of paper. This comes from the Salayatana Vibhanga Sutta from Majjhima Nikaya. But you understand, if you read the whole sutta, there's a whole set of things before it. It talks about the 6 sense spaces. That's why Salayatana Vibhanga, analysis of the 6 sense spaces in many ways. And there are different objects and different phases and so on, and different responses and so on. And so when you come to this part, you find that this is simplified, because all the other implications of the conditioning of the 6 senses are concerned also here. But you can see that it is very clear that how with the development of the vipassana and insight knowledges, the objects change, go along this flow. So the flow is not something you choose, something that comes about naturally. Just like when you see there's the flow of this river, and you're supposed to travel from the source on the river Po until you reach this delta. Now you know that you get able to navigate yourselves better. There's this rough place here, there's another rough place there. So you can navigate yourself better until you reach the end. So that's why we give you an idea of how the development should take place. And with all the conditioning of the 6 sense spaces, what happens? So this is generally. Then after that, when you have got an idea of your meditative progresses, then the mindfulness of consciousness plays a bigger role, bigger part. For example, in the beginning, we still make use of consciousness as the object of mindfulness, but not as a primary object for too long. Usually we build out the mindfulness of 4 foundations with the body and feelings. When you build up this, then the mindfulness is more stable and more continuous. And when it is more continuous in a natural manner, then you can watch the consciousness as a primary object for a longer period of time. This is because in the beginning the hindrances run rife. They are very strong. And when they take over, you are swept away by the flood. For example, before you can know how to swim, you don't jump into the deep sea. All the sharks will be waiting for you. The first condition for taking consciousness as the primary object is a natural continuity of mindfulness has been set up. And after that is the ability to see into the different types of mental states. And after that, to be able to see into different types of consciousness. This is where the ability to differentiate the mental state and the consciousness becomes useful, if not critical.